Is revenge ever justified, even in the face of profound loss? Anakin Skywalker's reaction to his mother's tragic death raises this critical question. Anakin's actions are driven by deep emotional pain. When he learns that his mother has been kidnapped by the Tuscans, he feels a desperate need to save her. This instinct is something we can all understand, wanting to protect loved ones. However, when he finds Shmi dying in his arms, everything changes. Shmi's last words, "I love you," are both comforting and heartbreaking. They intensify Anakin's sense of loss and grief, pushing him toward a violent response to his pain. Anakin's reaction is shaped by a psychological concept called trauma response. Trauma can lead people to react in ways they normally wouldn't. Anakin's grief quickly turns to rage as he sees the Tuscans not as individuals, but as representatives of his suffering. This instinct to retaliate is a common human behavior. It's a way to cope with feelings of helplessness and despair. Anakin's urge for revenge is an understandable reaction to his profound emotional pain and a desire to protect loved ones. However, this brings us to a critical issue: the cycle of violence. Anakin's decision to kill the Tuscans is not just an act of revenge. It also leads to further violence. Anakin crosses a significant moral line, transforming from protector to aggressor. While it's natural to feel anger and seek retribution after a tragedy, Anakin's actions create more suffering, not only for the Tuscans, but for himself too. His statement, "I slaughtered them like animals. I hate them," reflects his struggle with the weight of what he's done. Anakin's emotional struggle leads to dehumanization, viewing others as less than human. In moments of extreme pain, it becomes easier to justify violence by stripping away the humanity of those we blame. Anakin's rage turns the Tuscans into symbols of his suffering, allowing him to rationalize his brutal actions. To further examine whether Anakin's vengeance is justified, we can consider philosophical views on revenge. Revenge is often seen as a way to achieve justice, but it can also lead to moral decline. Anakin expresses this inner conflict in a crucial moment with Padme.
To be angry is to be human.
I'm a Jedi. I know I'm better than this.
This conversation highlights the tension between human emotions and Jedi ideals. Anakin acknowledges that he should be better, yet his actions contradict this ideal, showing how hard it is to stick to ethical principles when overwhelmed by emotion. After the violence, Anakin is forced to confront the reality of his actions. When Anakin says, "I slaughtered them like animals," he recognizes the horrible things he has done and sees the Tuscans as less than human. This statement shows the inner conflict he experiences as he tries to come to terms with being a Jedi while also committing such violence. Instead of finding justice or relief, Anakin feels more isolated and tortured. His actions demonstrate that seeking revenge often doesn't bring the satisfaction one hopes for, leaving individuals feeling even more lost. To figure out if Anakin's revenge is justified, we need to look closely at his feelings and what happens because of his actions. After losing his mother, it's completely understandable for Anakin to feel grief and anger. Many people in his situation would want to strike back at those who caused them pain. However, justification means considering more than just feelings. It also means looking at the results of those feelings. Anakin decides to kill the Tuscans instead of finding a way to seek justice or heal from his loss. From a philosophical perspective, revenge often does more harm than good. Although Anakin thinks he is avenging his mother, his actions only deepen his sadness and regret. He loses sight of who he is as a Jedi, someone who should promote peace and understanding. In conclusion, while Anakin's feelings of anger and desire for revenge are completely human and relatable, his actions cannot be justified. Rather than solving his pain, seeking vengeance pulls him further away from the values he wants to uphold. What if Anakin had only killed the Tuskens directly responsible for his mother's death? Would that have made his revenge justified? True justice is about fairness, not acting out of rage. By killing out of revenge, Anakin would be crossing a line, ignoring the values he was trained to uphold. Plus, his grief and trauma wouldn't disappear just by punishing the guilty. It might actually make his pain worse in the long run. In the end, whether Anakin sought vengeance on the entire village or just the individuals responsible, his actions remain driven by anger and grief. This blinds him to the Jedi principles of justice and compassion. Revenge may offer momentary satisfaction, but it ultimately deepens suffering for everyone involved, including Anakin himself.